Hi everyone, welcome to another edition of Apps for Success. As always, I am your host, John Bowman, and in every episode of Apps for Success, we take a look at a different application and how you can use it in your customer success efforts. Now this episode, we're continuing the trend of project management. And an aside, before we get to the top of this episode, I just want to talk a little bit about project management. Now, project management is extremely important. It's literally everything you're doing all day long. If something takes longer than 2 minutes, you have to schedule it, you have to plan it out, you have to do it at a different time, perhaps gather resources, get people together to help you. Well, that's a project. We're all project managers. We're all accidental project managers, right? So it's important for us to have a software to keep track and act as the one source of truth for all of your project management needs. That's why we've been talking so much about project management. You're a knowledge worker, right? And you manage projects. It's essentially what you do, whether it's a customer relationship, whether it's an onboarding, whether it's escalating a case, those are all just projects. That being said, we're going to talk to you today about a tool called Airtable. Airtable is kind of similar to our Google Tables review that we've done recently. So if you want to give that a shot, take a look at it, you'll see the similarities. But generally speaking, it's going to act as a source of truth for your entire team, for any ongoing projects that are happening, as well as to help to create some automations for you to make your life a little bit easier. Now, as always, we do have a joke before we jump into the application. You ready? Okay. How do astronomers throw a party? Give up? Well, they plan it. Into the application, guys.
Okay, folks, we're inside of the application. This is Airtable. Now, like I mentioned inside of the copy, Airtable is kind of the baby of spreadsheets and databases. You're going to see why in a moment. Here in the welcome screen, you can see my first workspace. And obviously you can have multiple workspaces if you want to. I'm only on a trial account, obviously. I'm on the pro version of the software. But you can have multiple bases inside of your workspace. And that is the term that Airtable likes to use. Bases, as in databases, right? So that's what these are here. But before we get into any one of my bases, it's always worth it just to show you how the app has things like templates or the marketplace or the universe. Airtable is much more built out than the Google Tables review we did last week. As you can see, the templates here are much more robust. You can see all the different use cases that are available to you, even for things like planning a novel, or if we scroll on down, doing a soccer club. Again, all of these options across every different industry that you can use. It's a very versatile tool. You can always search for your particular use case. In this case, let's take a look for success and see what comes up. There's some things that will allow you to do it. Obviously, teamwork, load planning, something you can do in here. Even succession planning, that's interesting from like a legal standpoint. I do have a customer success template that I've created inside of here for you to share. We'll see you in a second. I will show you in a second. Again, we also have the marketplace here. And as you can see, the marketplace is where you can go to buy or install different apps that will work with your Airtable account. It does integrate with a ton of different other softwares that you might use. One particular use case is the idea of a form, right? We talked about forms last week in the Google Tables review that we did. But Typeform might be your form of choice, and you can actually integrate that with your Airtable base so that any information you get from that Typeform will automatically be populated inside of your Airtable. Now that's just one use case. Obviously, you can do things like scripting, right, or validating email addresses that people will put in, right? There's a ton of stuff. I'm not going to go into each one of these. Just know that generally speaking, there's a lot of apps. There's apps that are made by Airtable themselves for things for charts and visualizations and reporting, which is going to make this a little bit better again than Google Tables we saw last week. Again, they even have the Gantt to use for those of you who like Gantt views. I'm become a bit of a fan myself. But if you come up here, you can see all apps, and then they also do have scripting, right? So they do have, let's say, automations that you can put into your Airtable base. Finally, there's the area here called the universe, the Airtable universe, and basically it's just sort of all things Airtable, right? So you can come here and you can see different use cases for Airtable, as well as stories that go along with it. Again, it's just a much more robust program than Google Tables we showed you last time. So let's get into the app itself. First, let's go back to the bases section. Remember, bases means databases, and you can have bases inside of your workspace. In this case, this is my workspace. These are my databases. First, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a blank base, this untitled base here. This is what a base looks like, okay? Now, what you can do, you can take this and we can just say, this is an example base, and this may look familiar to you because it's in a grid view format. As you can see, it says grid view here in the top. And that's basically just a spreadsheet, folks, right? So you can add in data if you want to. You can just say XYZ, and we can hit Shift Enter there to add that as a row. And they're under the column of name, right? Name, notes, attachments, status. We can always add another column as well. And here, whenever you're adding a column, you can do some cool stuff with it. These are kind of like custom fields, because for each column, you can say things like, this is a long text column, or this is a column where I'm going to be storing attachments, or maybe this is where I'm going to say that collaborators are going to work with me. Or perhaps if I scroll down, formulas are really cool, as well as last modified. It's something that's very awesome to see. But you can add in these things and we can create those fields, as well as import any data if we want to, but we're not going to get there yet. But you can see who this is last modified by, right? It tells you that I last modified this, right? So just like that, that's simple. You are adding rows, you're adding data to your database. Pretty darn cool. Up here at the top, you can see different things like hiding fields, filtering out for specific things. We can add a filter and we can say, the name contains, let's say XYZ, and then you can see the list is going to react. We can also group things by different ways, right? If we had notes or names or statuses, we could group them that way. So if we remove this filter here, there we go. And then we're going to take the status option here, set to do, and this one is an in progress, and this one is done. And then let's say this one is also a to-do, and then this one also is a to-do. See how that's all working, where it's automatically storing who did what? Well, we can always group things by status, and voila. Now you can see all of the to-dos that are grouped in the to-do status, as well as in progress or done, right? So you can always group your data a different way. Again, it's just a database. We can sort, and we can sort by a particular thing. In this case, we're going to sort by name, like that. When we do, we can keep it sorted in such a way, as well as change our colors, make things a little bit more fun. You can also do conditionals. So if something has something in it, then you can make the color X, Y, or Z and change it all upside down, as well as change out the row height, etc. Now what I'm doing here is I'm showing you again their base, and this is the basic base view. It's going to be in that grid view. Like I said, if you like spreadsheets, you're going to like Airtable. On the left hand side though, you can see there's more views, and we talked about this last time with the Google Tables application, because your information here is just data, and you can view your data different ways. In this case, we're looking in the grid view, but if we wanted to, we could select the Kanban view. And when we do, it's going to prompt us to ask how we should be grouping our data. And usually it's going to be by status if you're doing Kanban. We can select that, and you can see it's going to have our different records, as Airtable calls the data records, are going to be in different statuses, and we can click and drag things and move them to the different statuses that way. Again, this is just the same information that we had here in grid view, but it's now presented in the Kanban view. Additionally, calendar view is another option, and the gallery view is kind of cool too, because it's kind of just like little cards, and you can come in and decide actually what you want to see in each one of these cards too. You can customize them by clicking here and saying what you want to actually see. Last modified date might be something you want to add to it. You could do that. The thing I'll mention here, we talked a little bit about earlier, is the idea of getting information into your database using the form view. If we select the form view option, then you can drag and drop and create a form in order to allow the person filling out the form to populate your tasks or your records, in the case of Airtable, the way that you want them to be. So again, this is extremely powerful, because if you wanted to, and you had preset questions that you were asking customers every time you were doing an onboarding, you could come into the form view and create this form to match those questions that you wanted. So that's just sort of, again, the basic base model. This was the first table. We can always add in another table, create another empty table here inside this base, right? And again, it's just empty. We can add in more data if we want to. And we can always share our views too, folks, right? So we can always share those views for other people if we want to too. But you can have multiple tables inside of your bases, and you can call in between the two tables as well in order to do things like you would normally do inside of a spreadsheet. So those are kind of like the basic overview. I'll show you some of the more built out options here. So we've got customer success management template here. When we select it, here we are. You can see this is our customer success management template. In the top left, remember we were just talking about the idea of having different tables. Well, this is the accounts table, and then I've got a meetings table, and I've got a task manager table, I've got a contacts table, I've got invoices, I've got reference documents that I might want to have in there. This is a cool way to just build out a quick base in order to do customer success. We're going to start up here with accounts and owners, and as you can see, this accounts and owners base, table, not base, is going to be grouped by the CSM. So you can see John B, Kayla. Additionally, down here, we've got partnership growth is something we're tracking, as well as, if we scroll down a little bit more, another CSM for Logan, right? So you can take your different accounts, you can list them out, you can say what stage they're in. You know, they might be in sales, or they might be in the trial period. You can say the date of your next meeting, any time tracking that has to go on, you can totally do. You see this little icon here. This allows you to expand that particular task, and you can actually link these to records to a particular meeting if you'd like. Again, contacts. So if you see down here, you can see the different contacts that we're talking with. And you may be wondering, well, where are those contacts from? I'll show you that in a second. We've also got the invoice option here and the particular MRR that was set for that account, any total spend or roll up or a percentage of completion that we've done as well. So this is, again, just a quick way to be able to look at different accounts and seeing, what stage they're on, or, these are grouped by CSM right now, but maybe we might want to remove the partnership growth, and we might want to add in a second grouping, and that might be by the customer stage, right? When we do that, now we can see for Kayla, these are all the customers that are in trial period or in contract or in security review, etc. Pretty darn cool, right? There we go. So the next table we're going to show you is all accounts table. These are just all of the different accounts. Again, imagine yours is hundreds of long, but this is just, again, all of the accounts inside of our test data. You can see dates of next meeting, whether it's a known brand, we have to do a case study, any time tracking available to us, all that kind of stuff is available here and put in for you to store. Then we can take a look at accounts by stage. Again, we might want to see that all accounts by stage option, or a marketing view of what exactly is ongoing. Finally, that gallery I was showing this earlier and the calendar option are all possible here, folks. Again, you can take the calendar and show which meetings or the date of the meetings that you're going to have. Speaking of meetings, we're going to go here to the mailings and we'll show you again, general idea, the meetings that you have for each account, the date and time they're on, obviously, that's the date that it's going to be on, and just all meetings in general across the team. You can see that as well. The task manager is very similar to what we showed you last week inside of Google Tables. You can come in here and you can say when something is in progress or when something is complete or on hold, right? It's always good to know this data because you can report out on it. I'll give you a little hint of the reports earlier. We can go in here and obviously look at due dates, the meetings, any notes that are from that meeting, and the task name that has to get done, share billing information, etc. We can go to our deadlines option in order to see those dates that those deadlines are supposed to hit. We'll take a look at it from a CSM standpoint for all the different tasks that are outstanding and need to be done. And then again, just see all tasks across, right? So remember, we're just seeing these things, generally speaking, in the grid view. We can always see them in calendar or Kanban if we should choose. I hinted at this earlier, the contacts that were back here inside the accounts. So if we go to the accounts by owner, you're going to be able to see there is an area that tells us contacts, right? You may be wondering, where are these contacts? So we hit this little open up option. Well, that's interesting. We can click that and we can see this guy's name, Alexis Pham, right? So we got Alexis Pham as a contact. Well, if you go here to the contacts table, you're going to be able to see my friend Alexis Pham is right here, right? So what you can do inside of Airtable is you can take tables and make them interconnected between each other so that you can have all your contacts live in one place. And the contact may live on this particular table, but it can also work on the accounts table or the invoices section as well. So you come here and you can see all the information you have for that particular client, addresses, emails, all that kind of stuff. Airtable does a really great job of offering you a very CRM-like experience because it does allow you to put in all of these different categories and options for you. And if you ever have to deal with invoicing, obviously that's built in here as well. Generally, I don't, but that's something to think about for you too. That's a general overview of Airtable, folks. I'm not going to go completely in depth into everything here. I would suggest taking a look at the templates if you do come here, because frankly, they have so much built out here. I know we're going to be looking at this mostly from a customer success standpoint. But one thing I love about customer success is that it's a strange amalgamation of a ton of different tools. You know, you have to be a pretty darn good marketer to get people to answer your email. You've also really got to be a bit of a salesman, not maybe a hunter, more of a farmer, in order to make sure that you're expanding and upgrading your accounts as well, right? So you can look in here for marketing or sales related templates, or maybe you got a side project you want to come in and take a look. Airtable is a great way to do that, to see those templates and to see how it can help you. The other thing I would mention again is this marketplace we're talking about. This is how you usually take your Airtable and create automations around it, right? So you can add in particular apps. You know, maybe you want to have a CSV import come in and it kicks off an automation for you, or any particular form stack documents or things like that that you're bringing in as well. But that's what I wanted to show you with Airtable, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, it's always a pleasure to have you here. If you have any questions, or if you have an app that you'd like us to review next, feel free to just add it inside the comments. Thanks for watching. I hope you're doing well.